So, we're all too familiar with the gloominess that comes with the long winters, but as the temperatures drop for some people, so does their mood.
Millions of Americans have been diagnosed with a seasonal form of depression that doctors say is just more than the winter blues. Dr. Shannon O'Neill is a psychologist at Mount Sinai, and he's here to tell us more. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so it's called seasonal affective disorder.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
First of all, let's talk about what it is and then some of the symptoms.
Yes. So seasonal affective disorder, also known as seasonal depression. This is a type of depression with symptom onsets happening within a seasonal pattern. There is a winter pattern, and there is also, some find it hard to believe, there is a summertime pattern as well. The most common is a winter pattern. So symptoms begin in the fall, become much more significant and severe in the winter, and then begin to remit and lift in the springtime.
And the symptoms being low energy and not being able to sleep.
Absolutely, yes. There are some hallmark symptoms of a winter pattern. And it takes on the notion of this hibernation in general. So there's a social withdrawal and isolation within the home. There's excessive amounts of sleep and still feeling fatigued the next day. Excessive increase in your appetite and constantly craving those carbohydrates. And of course, weight gain that goes along with it.
But how do you know it's not just a bad day? Some people might just write it off as just having a bad day or a bad week.
Absolutely, that's important. I think some of these characteristics we can all relate to, reaching for that extra dessert, skipping that spin class from time to time. This is much more chronic, severe. It begins to impact a lot of the day-to-day activities for individuals.
And my understanding is it lasts about, like the 2-week period is the time to say, whoa, this is kind of a little bit more. Because I hear people, I'll walk around and it's raining, it's like, oh, I'm so depressed. But that's not really what we're talking about.
Absolutely, yes. It's typically lasting 2 weeks or more. The pattern is usually seasonal for 2 years or longer.
And why does it happen?
So with the reduction in the sunlight and the daylight during the winter months, it is really difficult with this biochemical imbalance in the brain. So starting with serotonin, this is a brain hormone that affects our mood. So when there's a reduction in the daylight, there's also a reduction in our serotonin, leading to some depression. Also melatonin. This is a brain hormone that we also have, and it's sometimes called the darkness hormone because it is produced and released during the dark. When we have much more dark days during the winter, it's released more. It encourages this onset of sleepiness, so you're feeling lethargic and tired throughout the day.
And what are the risk factors?
There is, so 5% of the U.S. population is experiencing this diagnosis. Women are 3 to 4 times more likely than men. The age of onset between 20 and 30 years old. And of course, if you have an individual or family history of depression, you're much more likely. I think something that is interesting is that your proximity to the equator. We can't necessarily choose where we live. However, those in Alaska, 9% of that population experience the diagnosis, whereas our same counterparts in Florida, only 1% experience the diagnosis.
All right, so how can we treat this?
Yes. That's a good question. Psychiatric medications, psychotherapy, these are very traditional forms of treatment. However, there are some things that you can do at home by yourself, whether it be for prevention or treatment itself. So this includes light therapy, and this entails purchasing a light box that exposes and emits this bright light while filtering out the UV rays, sitting in front of that for 20 to 30 minutes during the morning hours. Within 1 to 2 weeks, it can begin to remit and lift your mood. Also, of course, behavioral strategies. Trying to get as much sunlight as possible during the daytime, whether this means rearranging your home or your office to be closer to a window, staying outside, being active longer, anything that you can do to get more exposure to sun.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shannon O'Neill. Thank you for being here. For more information about seasonal affective disorder and how to get help, you can go to our website, cbsnewyork.com.